Okay, it's 3:30, so we'll get started. I want to welcome you to the November 8th Yakima School District Board of Directors virtual meeting. We do have someone to lead us in the pledge today, and I am going to ask Principal Noorani from Lewis and Clark Middle School to introduce our special guest to us.
Thank you, Marta. It's a great pleasure to be here with you guys. It's a beautiful day outside. We had a wonderful day. Um, it's a great pleasure to introduce one of our students, eighth grade student, Yoramaya La Papa, in our school. He is a ASP leader. He's the president of the ASP. Wonderful student. He's one of those kids that leadership is written all over him. I asked him what makes a good leader, and he said somebody that cares about others. Number one leadership uh, character, and I really like him. He's a great artist. I asked him, well, what are you going to be play football and all that? He said, no, right now I really enjoy art. So it's really awesome. I like this student a lot. He's one of those students that he tells me hello before I tell him hello. And those are all characteristic of uh, great leaders. So with that, I'm going to give you our fabulous LC trailblazer, um, Yermaya La Papa. Here you are.
Yermia, whenever you're ready, Mrs. Anderson will project the flag onto the screen. And when you see that, you feel free to start whenever you're ready, okay?
All right. Ready? Begin. I pledge
pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. I apologize for the background noise. I have dogs in the house that are underneath my feet and not happy about the fact that I'm on Zoom today. Yeremia, I'm going to invite the rest of the board to thank you in person. Well, in person as much as we can be in person. And they may have a question or two for you, okay? So,
That seems right with me.
Graciela, would you like to begin, please?
Sure. Hi, Yeremia. Thank you for being here. You did a good job on the Pledge of Allegiance. Can you tell me what you are enjoying most about being back in school in person?
Well, first, thank you for complimenting me on the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would have to say, I enjoy being able to mingle and integrate with other students most being back in school.
Is there anything that worries you about being back in person?
Um, no, nothing really worries me that much.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Graciela. Raymond?
Yes, I'm sorry. How do I pronounce your name correctly?
It's pronounced Uremia.
Uremia. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I wasn't sure about that. Thank you for that. So Uremia, thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you for being with us today. I appreciate that. I just have one question regarding your art. What type of art are you into?
I would have to say I'm very into the art of drawing, just the
Okay.
simple art of pen, pencil, and paper.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Likewise.
Norm?
Hi, Jeremy. My name is Norm Walker, and as you can see behind me, I appreciate art as well. We have a lot of art in our home, so I'd like to encourage you to pursue art as an interest, and I hope you find it really rewarding. Can you tell me anything else that you like, especially about school?
Well, thank you for your well wishes on my pursuit of art. Um, I have to say I like learning about algebra and history in school. those would
Okay.
be the top classes that I would like.
Well, I wish you well in your future in school.
Thank you.
Reverend Davis.
Jeremiah, thank you for being here today. And I know you love art, but one of my favorite is history. I love history. I love the history of this nation, of this country, and of our people. So continue to research and do the history, because the history is your future. You learn from it. Keep up the great work, and I'll be seeing you around. Keep up the great work.
I will do. Thank you.
Jeremiah, I also want to add my thank you for being with us this afternoon and taking some time out of your busy schedule. I'm wondering if you know which high school you'll be going to next year.
To be fully honest, I do not know what high school I will be going to in the future.
Either one, any of them will be very lucky to get you, that's for sure.
Thank you.
We do have the rest of our agenda to get to. You're more than welcome to stay on if you'd like to. We completely understand if you have something else that's asking for your attention. And if that is the case, then we completely understand if you have to leave. So thank you so much for being with us. Good luck in the rest of your 8th grade year. And we look forward to hearing great things about you in the future.
Thank you guys for complimenting me and having me as a representative of LC to be here.
You're very welcome. It's our pleasure. Mr. Narani, thank you so much for bringing us such a wonderful student.
I appreciate that this gentleman is going to be very successful in future, because when he puts the attention to caring about others, everything else will open for him. I'm really proud to have him as a member of our LC community. Good job, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the Yakima Land Acknowledgement. It's my pleasure to be able to read that today. This is something that the board shares, and so right now, this week, it's my turn. Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation. The people of Yakima Nation inhabited more than 1.2 million acres across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties. Today, we know those Native peoples who are, I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time reading this today, who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture. We acknowledge their descendants who live in the world today. We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial. An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect and a step toward connecting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture. It also honors the truth. As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation. And next we have a recognition, a proclamation for Native American Heritage Month and Day. And I don't think I assigned anyone to read this. Do I have a volunteer?
I can do that.
Thank you, Norm.
I'll have to get it to 125% magnification.
At least.
Okay, State of Washington Proclamation. Whereas Native Americans have inhabited the area now known as Washington State since time immemorial, and today 29 federally recognized Indian tribes out-of-state tribes with treaty reserved rights, and other tribal communities reside in Washington. And whereas members and descendants of tribes around the United States and First Nations of Canada also reside in the state of Washington, and whereas Native American contributions and values have shaped the social, political, environmental, and economic fabric of the state, while also enhancing freedom, prosperity, and cultural diversity. And whereas state law, Revised Code of Washington 43.376, directs the governor and state agencies to establish government-to-government relationships with Indian tribes in order to enhance and formalize working relationships with the tribes through collaboration and consultation. And whereas state law RCW 28A 320.170 mandates the teaching of tribal history, culture, and government in common schools, which will contribute greatly to improving schools' history curriculum and enhance awareness for a better cultural understanding. And whereas Substitute House Bill 1356, prohibiting the inappropriate use of Native American names, symbols, or images as public school mascots, logos, or team names, was signed into law on April 26, 2021, thus removing harmful stereotypes and barriers to racial equality, cultural awareness, and an equitable education. And whereas the state of Washington has designated the Friday immediately following the fourth Thursday in November as a state legal and school holiday known as Native American Heritage Day. And whereas Washington joins other states across the nation in celebrating Native American Heritage Month, honoring the unique heritage of this continent's first people, and reaffirming the commitment to respect each tribe's sovereignty and cultural identity. Now, therefore, I, Jay Inslee, Governor of the State of Washington, do hereby proclaim November 2021 as Native American Heritage Month and November 26, 2021 as Native American Heritage Day in Washington, and encourage all people in our state to join me in this special observance. Signed this 25th day of November, 2021, Jay Inslee, Governor.
Thank you, Norm. Next, we have a proclamation for American Education Week. Do I have a volunteer board member who would like to read that proclamation?
I'm happy to read that, Norma.
Thank you.
Martha, sorry, I just combined your and let's see here. All right, it's my great pleasure to read the American Education Week Proclamation, November 15 to 19, 2021. Whereas public education is the backbone of our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and broader intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas public education employees, be they educators, substitute educators, higher education faculty and staff, custodians, teachers, paraeducators, bus drivers, clerical workers, food service professionals, skilled trade workers, health and student service workers, security guards, technical employees, or librarians work tirelessly to serve our children and communities with care and professionalism. And whereas public schools are the foundation of neighborhoods and communities, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders, and elected officials in a common purpose. Now, therefore, the Board of Directors of the Yakima School District do hereby proclaim the week of November 15 to 19 as the annual observance of American Education Week. We urge all families and community members to join us in recognizing those who contribute to the future of our youth through the American education system. Dated the 16th day of November 2021, Yakima School District Board of Directors.
Thank you, Graciela. Take the opportunity sometime this week to thank the educators in our lives. Next, we have items of board interest. First are reports from members of the board. Do we have any board members who wish to report out to the rest of the board today? Okay, seeing none, just a note to the board, I did submit our legislative priorities that came out of General Assembly. The original deadline was noon on Friday. They kicked it out to noon today. I submitted those Friday afternoon, so I used input from the majority of the board in submitting those and would be happy to forward you the confirmation email that I received from WASDA. The legislative committee for WASDA will be meeting this Friday and Saturday and determining the legislative platform based on these priorities. So that platform will be ready probably by annual conference, which is in 2 weeks. Any questions on that? Okay. Also, I think Barb sent to us this afternoon the Survey Monkey for the ends report that we received last week. It's a fairly lengthy survey because of all of the pieces that are in the ends report. And so you have what, 2 weeks, Barb? Is that right?
Correct, November 22nd.
Okay. So November 22nd, that's the 2 weeks from today. We will, is it 2 weeks from today? Yeah. We'll, those will be due back to Barb. Okay. Anything else from the board? Okay. Next on our agenda is a discussion of board advocacy priorities. We have a virtual meeting with our legislators coming up on the 22nd. And Barb, can you remind us of the time?
The time of what? I'm sorry.
The time of the legislative meeting on the 22nd.
It's at 6 p.m.
Okay. So currently we have at least 2 who have said that they will be there, and we've calendared with the rest of them, and hopefully they'll respond. But typically what we do, you might remember, is share with our legislators the legislative priorities for the board and the district. And I don't know if, Trevor, if you've had an opportunity to speak with the cabinet about legislative priorities or not. The board went through that exercise from General Assembly just last week. So I'm wondering if there's anything from that prioritization exercise from last week that board members would like to suggest including as legislative priorities for us. And then Trevor, if you have anything to add from the district's perspective. Trevor, do you want to kick us off?
That discussion with the cabinet and superintendents is actually set for this week. So as far as any additional share at this point is a bit premature on our part.
Okay. Our next meeting is on this next Tuesday, right?
Correct.
Correct.
So that's the business meeting. We could have this discussion at the business meeting if you all need some extra time to prepare. By then, just the district should have their list of priorities. Would that be preferred by the board? Okay. So please be thinking between now and Tuesday. about what your legislative priorities might be, and we'll throw them all into a hat and see what we come up with. Okay? All right. Next on our agenda is the superintendent's update. Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Rice, members of the board. It's so good to be here again with you today and to share our updated November character word first and foremost, and then roll into our COVID updates and finalize with an update of what is happening around the scheduling of the Davis Auditorium. So beginning with November's character word, it is fortitude, which is strength of mind that enables a person to encounter danger or bear pain or adversity with courage. En español, firme, fuerza de la mente que permite a una persona enfrentarse al peligro o soportar el dolor o la adversidad con valentía. The trait, resilient learner, and in Spanish, característica, aprendiz resiliente. And what's become very commonplace every week for us is to have the update with Stacy Locke, our Assistant Superintendent of Operations, followed by Jewel Brumley, who will give the update for the region or for the county. Stacy.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Green. Good afternoon, Yakima School District Board of Directors, and might I note, a board of distinction. So, Barb, you're working on. I see you shaking your head. It's going to be a short one today. I would like to let you know that we have we shut down a couple days last week on our testing clinic as we have transitioned from having a middle person do our testing to our own staff gearing up and doing the testing for everyone in our community. So they commenced with that today. All the product made its way here this afternoon prior to opening at 1 o'clock. And we are rocking and rolling now with testing. Thank you, Barb. So Jess is still working on updating the website with the specifics for last week. And through the 1st through the 8th, we had 24 positive students, 3 staff, and approximately 400 quarantines across the district. And again, we are now testing Monday through Friday, and we are doing it ourselves and setting up our own system in place. We have discovered for the last year and 3 quarters here that our best bet is to have our people involved to provide the best quality care for our students and staff and community. And so that's it for this week. Any questions?
No questions?
Jewel?
All right, thank you. So the county has gone down in the last, week. This goes as of Friday. I don't have today's numbers, but we had 2 days at 98, and then the rest are below 100. So the thing that we're keeping them in double digits instead of triple digits for the day is great. Our rate as of Friday was 428, which is down from the 453. So we're going down slowly, not as fast as we did at the beginning of the month. September was really bad, but October's coming down slowly. So that's good. Our 7-day rate, I can't update until I get the numbers today, but it has gone down. So that's good. Vaccinated versus unvaccinated by cases. As you see, October, there was a large difference. So far in November, we've had 42 cases of breakthrough cases and 197 cases of unvaccinated people. Zip code rates, the last time they updated was October 31st. So it's a little behind that. This always lags a little. But all the all the days are coming down, all the rates are coming down. SELA went up a little bit, that one zip code area, but the rest are all coming down, which is nice again. Hospitalizations, unfortunately, haven't come down. They've actually gone up a little. Early in the month, we were averaging 30, 31 or so. Now we're in the 40s most of the time, 38, 39, 42. So hospitalizations are still high. Hospitalizations by vaccination. We've had one person hospitalized that was vaccinated, and this is in November's data, and we've had 12 unvaccinated people hospitalized in November. So there's a big difference. Percentage by age, or hospitalization by age. Again, our 65 to 79 group is the highest population in the hospital. And then school age cases, elementary is still, triple digits. Middle school is right around 100 and high school is less. This is countywide, so 72 new students last week and 18 new staff countywide contracted COVID, tested positive. This is the trend data. Middle school staying kind of level at the same, and then elementary came down even with that 121, and high schools dropped off quite a bit. So over time of the month. Vaccination rate, they've gone up about 0.4% since last week. But over time, we've made a lot of difference in this comparison graph. We haven't reached 51% yet, but we're getting closer, so we'll get there. And fully vaccinated 12 and up, we're at 63%. So. The forecast data, right now it's running about even with my low forecast data, the normal. This week, I don't have the weekend numbers, but we're at 411. Last week when I presented on Monday, we were at 480 as of Friday. We're at 411 this week. So should drop down a little bit this week. And then I have it kind of leveling off. That's kind of a nationwide trend. The upper error limit is, taking into account that things are getting more celebrations inside than outside as we head into the holidays. So anyone have any questions?
Any questions for Jewel or Stacy? It doesn't look like it. Thank you so much for this presentation. It's always good to keep on top of this.
Wonderful. Thank you, President Rice. We'll now take the time to have an update on the current status and moving forward of the Davis Auditorium. I've invited to kick us off here today, Principal Hasty, Heather Hasty. Proud of her and her work here this first year. Congratulations again on your dream job. I hope it's everything you hoped it would be. And thank you for never, ever, ever complaining from now into the future of what the principalship entails, as she laughs. So my understanding is that you had a wonderful event with your staff, and I was just hoping that you would share how that played out with the board, and then we would move into an update from Assistant Superintendent of HR, Anthony Marietta. So Heather, could you kick us off?
Absolutely. So last Monday, we chose to have our all staff meeting in the auditorium so that we could say goodbye to the auditorium. We have quite a few Davis grads who are now staff members here. We have, a lot of people who have been staff members for a long time here as well. And knowing that we wouldn't have a chance to see it in that capacity for a lot longer, we went in and we shared some different memories and celebrations and said goodbye to the auditorium. And even at the end of that, we had some staff members coming up to just lay their hands on the stage and just kind of feel it and be quiet and listen to the auditorium. And what also was really neat about that was that a few weeks back, we had the class of 1970 who came in and did a tour, and we had quite a few of them, and we did something similar. And it was so meaningful, and they asked if they could come back when it was new. And they said they weren't quite sure, what they would think, but they were going to be super excited, and just all the memories there, and just the echoes of what's been passed in there. And so that was really neat. And then the other thing that we had with the whole staff last Monday was, after we shared some things, is that Caitlin from Loopboro was sweet enough to give us just a quick flyover. They have just kind of a quick, minute, 2-minute video of, hey, what we're dreaming forward to. And so that was really good, and people were super appreciative, and our Davis family definitely appreciates what you guys are doing and helping to revamp something for the community and still keep the integrity of that original design too. It's pretty cool. So we thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Heather. Your leadership in that area to recognize what that means, even though we are excited about the future and the renovation and that it should have happened before, taking the time to really turn even the departure into something positive is extreme leadership. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. I would love to get our hands on that short little video. I'm sure the board is already thinking about what that would look like. So I will be in touch with you. And thank you for being here. You're welcome to stay, or I know you might have other things to do. But we do have Anthony now to talk a little bit about the progress or what that will look like moving forward. So I see him here. There he is. Anthony, I see your icon. Did we catch you somewhere else? Somebody go check on Anthony. Oh my goodness. Barb's running. So
while we wait for Anthony, I just like to say I look forward to hasty completion of this project, pun intended.
Yeah, I was actually going to make a reference to, I think we're probably arguing over who may be the most excited or push the hardest for this to happen amongst our board members. But for our 4 viewers and others that may watch this later, it has certainly been probably one of the most uniting opportunities for us as a board to rally around what should have been done previously, and it's something that's long overdue. So it's been nice to have Heather recognize that, to know that the people that have been in that facility will know that it still stands. It'll just be in a different format. So we look forward to that. Thank you, Director Walker. Any other comments before I turn it over to Anthony? All right, Anthony, you're up.
So just prior to this meeting, I met with Gary Wetch, the architect from Loughborough Wetch, giving an update on where we are. Everything seems to be on track. There have been areas of concern that were raised, so I wanted to have them addressed. One of the things that Gary assured me, that they worked with sound consultants to ensure that the remodel would be good acoustically for choir, band, and plays. I think that's an important note, that there was questions raised about orchestra pit. That too is being addressed, which will allow for a slight remodel down below to address some of the larger instruments. And when the orchestra pit is not being used, then it will have a cover to allow greater size for the stage. The dressing rooms were done in the 2013 to 2015. Part of the first phase of the remodel, which are across the hall, and part of the remodel will also have the access for ADA that will take advantage of the elevator that was put in the previous phase one remodel, so that we will still be able to have full accessibility for the stage. There are bids that are put in, both the original bid and what he refers to as an alternative, to ensure that we have the proper seating. We are going to go with the alternative bid to ensure that everything seat-wise is consistent and replaced. And it looks like we are on track. The reason we had talked to you before about the schedule that we have in place, quite frankly, is because of materials. Again, remember, we started this project at the start of COVID. And with that, what we've seen are drastic cost increases due to the lack of supplies, material, and increased cost to labor. We chose the more aggressive schedule in order to try to fit within the cost containments of the project. Please remember, this project was put on hold over 10 years ago because they were not able to fit within the scope of the original project and money that was available. So the maintenance assistant director, Jay Baucom, along with Gary, has tried to address every issue that is there. I think that with all projects, there may be somebody or a department that has concerns or claims that their issues are not being addressed. But I assure you that they all are, and I'm more than happy to take on any questions or concerns that any of you may have.
Anthony, could you remind the board of the timeline, please?
Yes, I can. As a matter of fact, give me just 1 second. This was one of the areas that I was. So we started this scope in May of 2021. There was a pre-design, then what they refer to as the schematic design, design development, construction documents, bidding, and then the construction project itself. We are in November, which is in the tail end of the construction documents. The bidding has already been put out. I believe that we will be opening the bids that have been placed by the outside contractors sometime in November. It was originally scheduled for, December. I believe it was scheduled for December 2nd. That date may have slightly changed. Once we have the successful bidder, the project is due to begin in the first week of January, and if everything goes on track, would be complete by the end of August.
Thank you. Any questions from board members?
Yes, I do have a question. So I know the board had received an email, but I've also received questions from community members regarding plans for seating. And I know that, Anthony, you mentioned seating. Can you elaborate on what those plans are?
Yes, Raymond. So in the beginning phases, one of the things that we talked about, and I was involved in some conversations personally, my recommendation would love to keep those original seats with the Art Deco sides and the to go with the original feel of the building. And I do have a schematic that I can share if you will allow me to share my screen that I could pull up. It'd take me about a minute to grab it here. But quite frankly, after speaking with the seating company and the contractor, the architect, about what it would take, what we opted to do is to keep the sides, the outside that has the Art Deco flair to it, and use it with new seatings. They gave us 2 different bids, one to replace all of the lower section, and then one with the entire seating of the auditorium. And we have chosen to go with the entire seating. Again, there's a liaison that Jay and the architect had been working with. What has been communicated, I don't know. The teachers all have different prep periods, so there is no one time where we can meet during the day where we will have everybody present. But we are replacing all of the seats within the auditorium. And if there is a misconception about that, I can just share with you that the decision had already been made to replace all of the seats. We will be reusing the outside Art Deco stands. Those are no longer made. They are being dismantled and they will be powder coated and then put back in use with the new seats.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, because I too also receive from community members that concern. And I told them that we had a plan and you have shared that plan, and hopefully they are satisfied with that plan and the other plans that they have concerns about. So thank you, Anthony, for taking that on.
So you're welcome. I can tell you, I have seen a copy of what I believe is the email that you're referencing. And again, I will point out that all the dressing rooms, which was also raised in that communication, had been addressed and remodeled in the 2013 and 2015 projects. So making a reference to what were the old dressing rooms and wanting those to be remodeled is not part of the scope, nor is it going to be part of the scope because that work had already been done. But again, I believe somebody is trying to raise an issue where the issue does not exist. So from that perspective, I am more than happy to walk you through any piece, and I have spent numerous amount of hours trying to make sure that every concern that you may have, I can answer.
No, I'm comfortable with that. Thank you, Anthony.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, should we get questions or comments from the community, I would encourage board members to let those folks know that they can contact either Trevor or Anthony directly and get those concerns or questions answered.
That's right, Martha. That's exactly what I did too.
Thank you.
If you had that concern, contact Trevor Green or Anthony, because I'm, thank you.
Okay. I'm looking forward to seeing what the auditorium is going to look like come August. Having a student who was very active in all of the plays that took place there while she was in high school. I think not only would the board, but also the community be interested in seeing what that looks like. Maybe we could entice Heather into doing a little open house or something tasteful to commemorate the new revised auditorium.
May I share my screen to show you something that has been put together by the architect?
Sure. Is this that little video that you were talking about, Heather?
Yes,
It's
that's the
very,
flyover.
it's very nice. I especially like what they've done with those windows that they, bricked over or covered up or something. I think that's a really nice touch.
If you notice the light fixtures, those are the original light fixtures redone with LED on the inside. The Art Deco shape to the foyer. The windows that you're talking about, taking off the wooden covers that they use for sound now and replacing the original windows, keeping the original glass, but putting backlighting to it. And then because of some of these changes, again, an acoustic specialty person was brought in to make sure that all of this works, both for choir, for band, and for drama, as well as speaking. So those issues have all been addressed. Again, I don't know what the communication has been with everybody else, but this is a combination of the vetting that took place back when the first phase of the original project came through, as well as what's being presented now by Gary Wetch, who's been the architect involved in both phases. So I hope this will please everybody, but I know that I have to lower my expectations, and that not everybody will always go with everything no matter what. But yes, the seats will be replaced, and I hope that I can squash that concern.
Thank you, Anthony.
Martha, can I make a comment?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm just so happy to hear the news that the Davis High School auditorium is becoming a reality, and to know that by next year, sometime next year, it'll be complete. So just happy about that. Now my work on the board is complete because it's been several years where the board did commit to this project, and it's just great news to hear that it's going to happen. And I know that Anthony and the school district are not going to be able to please everybody, but I think everybody in the end will be quite pleased when they walk into a new or renovated auditorium. So for the board, I know this is going to address some of the equity issues, and we know, and also sends a strong message that the performing arts is also important, in addition to academics. So I just wanted to make mention of that, and good job to our superintendent and his team for the project, and our principal and new principal at Davis for leading the charge there as well. So we look forward to walking into a newly or renovated auditorium at Davis. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Same here. Since Raymond and I was getting bombarded since I've been on the board about the Davis Auditorium, and we took that on, and we kept fighting, and we finally got it. And I love what I see, and I know it's going to work. And that's, you're not going to please everybody, but it's okay, because what I've just seen is state-of-the-art work in renovation. And the seating, I love it because it keeps the old decor with the new, and to bring out all the other stuff that was hidden behind plywood and other stuff, to see it out there. It's going to be a great auditorium, and I can't wait to see the final product in August. Thank you, Trevor, and your staff. And Mrs. Hastings, keep up the great work.
Okay, any other comments from board members? Okay, looking forward to August, Anthony. All right.
All right. I would just add that there's the saying that a lie can be halfway around the world before the truth puts its shoes on in the morning. And I think that the statements or the anticipation of the long-awaited renovation actually have people excited. I don't think there's any bad intent. People are just curious, and they hear things, and we're glad that we have this forum to dispel any confusion that may be out there. And I think that we should be equally as happy that people are reaching out to board members and others to express any doubts or concerns that they do have. So I think it certainly beats the alternative of being quiet and then complaining afterwards. It's much better to dispel any of those issues up front. So thank you, and thank you for allowing the time to update you on these items. And I'll turn it back to you, President Rice.
Thank you, Trevor. Next on our agenda are pre-approval discussions for 3 board rating reports. The first one is 1000.4.1. We saw all of these earlier well, not earlier this month, but in October. 4.1 was discussed on October 11th. And we did have some problems with that one, which resulted in it looking like we had 7 or 8 board members responding to it. But I can assure you that all board members did respond to this survey and all agreed that the superintendent is in compliance with this policy on unity of control. And I don't know, well, there was one comment that annually is sufficient for review of this policy. I don't know who made that comment, but if you'd like to elaborate on that, we can certainly discuss that. Okay. Well, it's been a while, and we can certainly look at how often we review these policies. Some of them are semi-annually, some are annually. We have a retreat coming up in January, and if it's of interest to the board, we could add the review of these policies to that retreat agenda. We haven't set the agenda yet, but we'll be doing that sometime in December. Okay, are there any further comments on 4.1?
Martha, would we be able to correct the number of respondents on this survey? Because I hate for it to be approved or not approved and put into the historical archives with wrong information.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to defer to Barb. I know that she worked with the SurveyMonkey people, and the reason that we have either 7 or 8 or however many the number is because it was issued twice in order to get it to the point where everybody could see it, and then some board members responded to the survey twice. So I don't believe that changes the outcome at all. The only thing would be that the number of respondents is incorrect. But Barb, do you think that the SurveyMonkey could correct that?
I could contact them tomorrow. When I was asking them about that to begin with, because you and I spoke about that, they said that I'd have to just delete the whole thing and start all over from scratch. So if we want to do it that way, we most definitely can.
Okay. What would be the preference of the board?
My thoughts are, in looking at the results, everyone said that the board was compliant, and so I would be comfortable moving forward. If there were if anyone rated this policy other than that one option board as compliant, then I'd say we maybe need to start over to have an accurate count. But since all 8 responses, which is a few board members submitting it more than once, answered the same, I'd be comfortable moving forward.
Other
Ditto.
thoughts? Okay. Don or Raymond?
Yeah, it appears it's too much trouble to change that, so I'm agreeable.
Okay. All right. Don may have stepped away for a minute. Okay, so we will keep it as it currently is. The next one is 1000.4.2, accountability of the superintendent. All board members responded to this one and all agreed that we are in compliance. And I don't think there were any, oh yeah. I noticed in this one, Barb, and I think we addressed this before, maybe in another one. There are several of the survey responses that have a comment or that says there's a comment, but there is no comment. But it appears as a bar on the compliant versus non-compliant.
The reason is
graph.
because when they type, so it says comment box and somebody types in none.
Okay.
And so it comes up as a comment because it's populating from the comment box instead of just skipping the comment box.
Is that something that we can fix? Because that's not the case in, I don't think, any other, or maybe at least most other surveys. The comments just appear as comments, but they don't appear in the box, in the
On
graph.
the graph. Okay. I can look at it. Absolutely.
Because what happens is that even though board members may have agreed that we are in compliance, it only shows 80%.
Ah, I
With
see.
10%
Saying that it's not because
as
they
a
use the comment
comment.
box. Okay. Okay. I can try to work with SurveyMonkey to see that if it's a default. I'll change the default on the comment box.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. Is there any discussion on the part of the board from on 4.2?
Well, no, just on the format of that, I make it a habit to not leave blanks blank. And so if I have a comment, I don't have a comment, I say none. And that's always worked before, and it's never tabulated it this way. So something at SurveyMonkey is changing how they're tabulating, because and I'm happy to just, if I don't have a comment, I'll just leave it blank. But that's kind of been a practice of mine to fill in the blanks. And so I'll stop doing that if it's going to mess us up, but it didn't used to cause a problem before. So it just kind of puzzles me. I think they've changed their procedures. Or their
Yeah, you can
algorithm or
see
something.
question number 4, you wrote none on question number 4, and it didn't rate it up there on the graph. So
Yeah,
it's just
that's
something behind the scenes. I'll look at it.
yeah.
Yeah. Some setting is sideways somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Any other? Go ahead.
Thank God it's Norm and not me, because I put in a on some of them. So Norm, you have that one, but I stopped doing that because I figured why we was doing this today, that was something that wasn't right, but mine was NA. So
Yeah.
okay, Norm, that's yours.
Okay. Any other comments on 4.2? Okay, and the last one is 1000.4.3, delegation to the superintendent. All board members responded and all agreed that that we are in compliance with all elements of this particular policy. I don't see any comments. Is there any discussion on this policy? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion for approval of the monitoring reports and board rating reports for 1000.4.1, unity of control, 1000.4.2, accountability of the superintendent, and 1000.4.3, delegation to the superintendent.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Don, seconded by Norm. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Reverend Davis Jr.,
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva,
Aye.
President Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a review of board policy 1000.3.1 governing style. This is before us because of a request for a new element to be included in this policy. The new element is 12. Is that right, Barb? Yeah. New element 12, and that is to clarify in policy the new process that the board has adopted, that action items that the board assigns to itself have a 30-day window. And if they're not complete within that 30 days, then they fall off the table and can choose to be, the board could choose to resurrect them or not. So that's before us. Are there any questions or comments from board members before we submit this for first reading?
This is, just to clarify, this is a board practice that has been in existence for a number of years. We're just actually putting it in writing, right?
Well, there are two elements to this section. One is that two other board members have to agree that this is something that they want the board to pursue, and that has been a practice for even longer than I've been on the board. But the other element is assigning a 30-day window to it. That is relatively new. The board meeting, 2 board meetings ago, I think, we agreed that there would be that 30-day window assigned so that things could get taken care of and get off of our plate and we can move on. Did that answer your question, Raymond? Okay. Any other questions or comments from board members before we submit this? Okay.
Martha, just
Yeah.
a clarifying question. Should the board actively work on something within that 30-day window, but whatever that policy or action is, if that's not completed, does this give us the flexibility to continue working on that? Versus it being we only have exactly 30 days to complete something. So I'm thinking about, for example, our work on the equity policy, and that took us quite a bit of time. We had actively been working on it, and so I'm just wondering if this gives us the flexibility to continue to work on something if it's something we're actively working on, and differentiating that from something that is brought up and then we don't actively work on it for that subsequent 30 days. Does that make sense?
Yeah. From my perspective, it gives us that flexibility. What I would suggest is that we have to be actively working on the project and then take some kind of action to extend that 30-day period as we need to.
Okay.
But just to have something that we all decide that well, at least 3 of us decide that we want to do, and then nothing happens to it for 30 days. I guess from my perspective, it falls off the table for lack of attention.
So the term product, would that mean a finished product, or like you said, something in progress? Or because when I look at a product, that to me says something that's near completion or finished, or so I'm not sure, just a play on words, I guess.
Is there a different word that you'd like used?
No, I'm not sure. That's what I'm just I wanted to mention that.
to me, a product isn't necessarily the final product. It
Okay.
could be a
Use the
draft.
whole
It
thing.
could be just something that we're working on together, or somebody has brought a board member has brought to the rest of the board for reaction,
Mhm.
so that it's kind of being paid attention to and not forgotten.
So it's the, okay, so I'm just trying to understand, just, so it says that any such action will have a 30-day window for completion. So that's the process and not the product, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have different phraseology that you would prefer, I'd certainly be open to that.
No, I'm just
I
trying to
think- I
understand,
think
because I don't think I was part of, I missed the meeting where we would discuss this, so I just wanted to understand it better, what this edition is all about. Thank you.
Maybe a better word would be progress /
Progress
completion.
sounds better.
Progress / completion.
Yeah.
Because I think progress addresses Graciella's question.
Yeah.
And I think your question too, Raymond.
Would it be okay, do you think we should add, like in that next sentence, board members may choose to update the rest of the board throughout the 30-day progress, or ask for an extension, or do we need that?
Oh,
Additional
sorry.
time or to complete the project or product?
Yeah, we could add that. Do you
'Cause
want
I
to?
think that addresses Graciella's question.
Yeah. Do you want to take a stab at those 2 sentences and submit them to Barb for consideration?
Sure, I would just say, or add, or ask for additional time to complete the product, something like that.
Okay.
I can work with her.
Okay. All right. Anything else here on this one? Okay. Thanks for the discussion. Good discussion. Next, we have approvals. The first is the approval of the Carl D. Perkins grant application and strategic plan for the Career and Technical Education Program for the 2021 to 2022 school year. This is something that we see every year, and Dr. Rodriguez, I'm going to turn it over to you while I referee the dogfight.
That sounds great. Thank you, Board President Rice, members of the board. As President Rice stated, this is something that we do annually. This is approval of the Carl D. Perkins grant application and strategic plan for our CTE, Career and Technical Education Program for this school year. It should sound familiar because you have already approved one of our Carl D. Perkins grant applications, which was for YB Tech. So this is the same process that we go through with the plan that we have for our Career and Technical Ed program. It is required that the board sign off on this because this is something that has federal oversight. The grant is utilized to cover some professional development costs, pay for dual credit fees for our students, and bring in current industry-aligned curriculum and equipment to expand our CTE programs. It is directly aligned to our district strategic plan goal number 2 and goal number 5. So I am requesting this evening that the Board of Directors grant approval of the grant application and strategic plan for the CTE program for this school year.
Any questions for Dr. Rodriguez? Okay. The board is. go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was trying to look at the strategic plan, but I'm just wondering kind of where the industry's headed, considering COVID, a lot of
Get out of
changes,
there.
online and so forth, changing in the industry in terms of
No.
jobs and training. I mean, I haven't, to be honest, haven't really fully reviewed the strategic plan. So I'm just wondering about that. Where are we headed in terms of the current plan, I guess, addressing those industry needs?
Sure. So part of our career technical education program is having industry partners that serve on advisory committees, and it's tied to specific industries. So we do have folks who work in those industries that advise the teachers and the leadership of career technical education around how things are changing in the industry. And obviously, coming through the last almost 24 months at this point of pandemic, it has had a major impact on many industries. So I think looking at a lot of things in terms of digital learning, asynchronous involvement in meetings. I mean, our kids have a lot of these skills just from being students. But I know that this is something that's kind of early in the process of those discussion at those CTE advisory boards. And certainly we could bring an update back to you with Byron Gerard, who is our Executive Director of Career and College Readiness at a future date if you would be interested.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Rodriguez?
Martha?
Yes.
I would just like to add, and thank you, Dr. Rodriguez, for sharing that information. But one of the great things that we have in our CTE programs is the advisory team coming together and sharing what industry is currently doing and having people that are in the field advise directly and have an impact. And I really do believe that we could take some of that back into our other classrooms as well and benefit from that. So it's kind of a hidden treasure at times, our CTE programs, but I don't think that will remain the case much longer. We have some wonderful people that have been added that are doing some great things with those programs.
Thank you, Trevor.
Just one more comment. I really like the development of the pathways in the middle schools. That's awesome. I really like that. That way, those students who are considering going the vocational technical route can get on that pathway a lot sooner and be more focused on what they want to do. So thank you for that. That's awesome.
Thank you, Raymond. Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay. The board is being asked to grant approval of the Carl D. Perkins grant application and strategic plan for the Career and Technical Education Program for the 2021 to 2022 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Raymond, seconded by Don. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Reverend Davis Jr.,
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva,
Aye.
President Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Barb. Next, we have an action for approval of Resolution 02.21.22, sale of property. Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Board President Rice, members of the board. I'm here this evening requesting your approval of Resolution 02.21.22. A copy of the resolution is embedded in tonight's board packet, so you can take a look at that particular resolution. At the background of this is that when YV Tech was housed at its prior location, there was a parcel of land that was set aside for additional overflow parking. Now that YV Tech is no longer in that location, we still own that parcel of land, but really do not have a need to continue owning it. The parcel of land, the assessed value it's a 0.43 acre parking lot valued at $78,600. The sale of that property would directly go back those proceeds to support the YV Tech program. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
We're selling
I just have one correction in the action letter. The current address for YV Tech is at 1120 South 18th Street, not 18th Avenue. So because it's a legal document, we probably should have the correct address in there. It's in the body of the background information. in the action letter.
Thank you. We'll get it updated.
And this is being sold back to YBC.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm sure they will make good use of a parking lot. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, the board is being asked to approve resolution 02.21.22, sale of property. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Norm, seconded by Don. Is there any discussion? Okay, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Reverend Davis Jr. Reverend Davis Jr.
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva,
Aye.
Aye.
President Rice.
Aye.
I said aye.
I got it. Thank you. Mr. Navarro Jr.
Aye.
and Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a bit of housekeeping, and that requires a resolution. This is resolution 01.21.22, newly elected director attendance at WASDA annual conference. We will be having a turnover of one board member at the board meeting immediately following the certification of the election. And the certification happens on the 23rd, so that new board member will be sworn in on the 29th at that board meeting. However, the WASDA annual conference occurs prior to that, and as has been our practice in the past, if the stars align as they are now with a new board member coming on as a result of election prior to the date that they're being sworn in, but when the outcome of the election is certain, then we have a resolution that we approve in order to allow for the expenditure of funds for the incoming board member. Are there any questions on that before we look for a motion? Okay. The board is being asked to approve Ryan Beckett, newly elected director, to attend the WASDA annual conference November 18, 19, and 20 of 2021 in Bellevue. This will include hotel fees and registration fees for the conference. And this would be for resolution 01.21.22. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Norm, seconded by Graciela. Is there any discussion? Okay, Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Reverend Davis Jr.,
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva,
Aye.
President Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. That concludes our regular agenda for today. My understanding is we do have a need for executive session.
We do have need for an executive session with only the board and me as superintendent.
Okay, for the purpose of,
Performance of a public employee,
okay, and for how long?
30 minutes.
Okay. We do have a need for executive session for 30 minutes for performance of a public employee. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Don, seconded by Norm. Barb, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Reverend Davis Jr.,
Aye.
Ms. Villanueva,
Aye.
President Rice,
Aye.
Mr. Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, do you want a little few minute break before we go to executive session?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, Barb, remind us how we get there.
The breakout rooms are set up and you will be able to just move right into them.
All right. Well, it's just so good to see our Board of Distinction back. Can I throw that in there?
Yeah.
Actually, Barb has some additional just numbers that I'd just like to share with you about our recent change with our provider for COVID testing. So Barb,
Okay.
could you tell everybody what you just told me? Because we did part ways with a company that was having the long lines out here and that we were having some issues with. And today's number, so today was the start again of now running the testing site fully internally now with our own personnel. And Barb?
Yep. So Amy Norton, under Stacy Locke, she was in the professional library here. They had 157 people come through the testing today. There was 8 positives and 5% positivity rate. The numbers prior to this was right around 160 tested each day, but the lines were hours long. And today we had 0 line. People were in, they got their result right then and there. If they are positive, they sit there with Amy. She tells them what to do, what the next steps are, and then they give the negative paper right to them. They can bring it now to the school and get admitted back into school the next day. So it's pretty great.
That's excellent.
I know.
Great
Thank
news.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, the testing is only for our employees and students. Is that correct?
That is incorrect. The testing is for every family member that lives in Yakima School District. So
Okay.
if there's somebody in your home that's in our family, and you're one of our family members, then you can come and get tested, whether it's a staff member, a family member.
So
students.
it's not open to the general community. It's
Correct.
open to Yakima staff, students, and families.
Yep. And I
That
think
is correct.
Kirsten said that covers about 60,000 people.
It's more than enough. Okay. Well, thank you for that. It sounds encouraging that we're not having people wait for hours in line and that they can get those test results like right away. So that's excellent. Please thank Amy for us.
I will. She's still here cleaning up. I'll go run and tell
Oh,
her that.
bless her heart.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Nope.
All right. Thank you all for being with us and hanging out. I apologize for the background noise and for yelling when I wasn't muted. Thank you, Barb, for muting me. As I told the board, the neighbor dog was in the house. And when the neighbor dog is in the house, all the little ones just go crazy.
Yeah,
So-
Martha, I just want to let you know that when the neighbor's dog is in the house, as much as that dog is in your house, it is now your dog. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, but he doesn't listen to me. He's like a juvenile delinquent.
And I wanted to say apology accepted.
Okay. If there's nothing else, then we are adjourned and have a good rest of your week. And we'll see you next week at the business meeting.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.